What if the greatest monsters in history weren't born from imagination, but from reality? Thousands of years ago, there were no museums, no archaeologists, no science. People stumbled across gigantic skeletons buried beneath the ground, watched enormous predators disappear beneath the ocean, and encountered creatures unlike anything they'd ever seen. Without an explanation, those discoveries became stories. Those stories became legends, and some of them have survived for thousands of years. Today, we're counting down 12 mythical creatures that really existed, or at least the real animals, ancient humans, and incredible discoveries that inspired the legends. Some of these creatures walked beside our ancestors. Others ruled the oceans millions of years ago. And by the time we reach number 1, you'll see why one famous myth has become surprisingly connected to modern science. Let's begin. Number 12. Dwarves. Legends of tiny people exist all over the world. The Vikings believed dwarves forged magical weapons beneath mountains. In Ireland, mysterious little people were said to disappear into hidden caves. Even in Indonesia, local tribes passed down stories about tiny humans living deep inside the forest. For centuries, nobody believed those stories. Then, in 2003, archaeologists made an astonishing discovery. Inside a cave on the island of Flores, they uncovered the skeleton of an adult human barely 3.5 feet tall. At first, scientists believed the bones belonged to someone with a rare illness. Instead, they had discovered an entirely different human species, Homo floresiensis. Despite their tiny size, they built stone tools, hunted animals, and survived for tens of thousands of years. Imagine meeting one of them without knowing evolution existed. Generations later, the memory of those encounters could easily become something far more extraordinary. Not another human, but a dwarf. Number 11. Unicorn. The unicorn we know today is elegant, beautiful, almost magical. But the real animal that may have inspired the legend was anything but gentle. During the Ice Age, an enormous relative of today's rhinoceros roamed across Europe and Asia. Scientists call it the Siberian unicorn. Some weighed nearly 4 tons and carried a single horn over 3 feet long. Unlike the unicorns in fairy tales, this creature looked powerful enough to charge through almost anything in its path. What's even more incredible is that early humans may have actually seen them. Picture standing on an empty grassland at sunrise. A gigantic one-horned beast slowly emerges through the morning mist. Would you describe a rhinoceros or something magical? As the centuries passed, the terrifying giant slowly transformed into a graceful symbol of purity. The animal disappeared, but the legend lived on. Number 10. Griffin. Thousands of years ago, merchants crossed the Silk Road searching for silk, gold, and precious stones. Instead, some found fossils, enormous skeletons sticking out of the desert floor, massive claws, huge ribs, and skulls with sharp, curved beaks unlike anything alive. Today, scientists recognize many of these fossils as Protoceratops, a horned dinosaur that lived millions of years before humans. But ancient travelers had no idea dinosaurs had ever existed. Looking at those remains, they imagined something else. A creature with the body of a lion, the head of an eagle, and the strength to guard hidden treasure, the griffin. Whether that's truly where the legend began may never be proven. But one thing is certain: whenever humans discover something they can't explain, their imagination finishes the story. Number 9. Dragons. No mythical creature appears in more cultures than the dragon. Europe imagined fire-breathing monsters capable of destroying entire kingdoms. In China, dragons became symbols of wisdom and power. civilizations separated by thousands of miles all described giant reptilian beasts. But why? One possible answer is hidden beneath our feet. Long before paleontology existed, people uncovered enormous fossilized bones unlike anything they had ever seen. Gigantic skulls, massive claws, teeth the size of daggers. To modern scientists, they're the remains of dinosaurs and giant flying reptiles. To ancient civilizations, they were dragons. Imagine discovering those fossils without knowing extinction had ever happened. You wouldn't think they belonged to an animal. You'd believe monsters once ruled the earth. And in one important way, they actually did. Number 8. The Loch Ness Monster. Hidden deep within the Scottish Highlands lies one of the world's most mysterious lakes. Loch Ness, cold, dark, and nearly impossible to explore completely. For decades, witnesses have described seeing the same strange creature. A long neck, a massive body. Then it disappears beneath the surface. Scientists have searched the lake using sonar, underwater drones, and even environmental DNA. So far, every investigation has reached the same conclusion. There is no convincing evidence that Nessie is alive. But the legend didn't appear out of nowhere. Millions of years ago, the oceans were home to the plesiosaur. With its broad body, 4 powerful flippers, and incredibly long neck, it looked remarkably similar to the creature people imagine swimming beneath Loch Ness today. The monster may be fictional, but the animal that inspired it was absolutely real. Number 7. Yeti and Bigfoot. In the Himalayas, climbers still report enormous footprints appearing overnight in fresh snow. Thousands of miles away, hikers exploring North America's forests tell remarkably similar stories. Heavy footsteps, dark figures moving between the trees, a giant covered in hair. For years, blurry photographs and mysterious footprints fueled endless debate. Most eventually turned out to be hoaxes, bears, or simple misidentifications. Yet modern science revealed something even stranger. Our species wasn't always alone. Neanderthals, Denisovans, and several other ancient human relatives once shared the Earth with modern humans. They looked familiar, but different enough to seem almost mythical. Imagine catching a glimpse of one disappearing into a forest. You wouldn't know you were looking at another human species. You'd think you'd seen something impossible. And maybe that's exactly how one of history's greatest legends was born. Number 6. Kraken. Before submarines explored the deep ocean, sailors feared one creature above all others: the Kraken. A monster so enormous it could wrap its tentacles around an entire ship and pull it beneath the waves. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as impossible. Then scientists discovered the giant squid, a real deep-sea predator that can grow longer than a city bus. Its eyes are the largest in the animal kingdom, allowing it to see through the darkness nearly a kilometer below the surface. Even today, giant squid are rarely seen alive. Most are found only after washing onto beaches or becoming tangled in deep fishing nets. Now imagine seeing just one massive tentacle rise beside your wooden ship during a violent storm. Without knowing giant squid existed, would you believe you'd seen an animal or a monster? Sometimes reality is terrifying enough to create legends all by itself. Number 5. Cyclops. Picture yourself exploring an ancient cave. Hidden in the shadows lies a gigantic skull, twice the size of a human's, and right in the center, one enormous hole. To the ancient Greeks, the answer seemed obvious. It belonged to a one-eyed giant, the Cyclops. Centuries later, archaeologists solved the mystery. The skulls weren't human. They belonged to ancient elephants and dwarf mammoths. That giant opening wasn't an eye socket. It was where the trunk had once been attached. But from the front, the illusion is almost perfect. Without understanding elephant anatomy, it's easy to see why ancient people imagined a race of enormous, one-eyed monsters. One fossil, one misunderstanding, one legend that survived for thousands of years. Number 4. Leviathan. The deep ocean has always been Earth's greatest mystery. Even today, we've explored only a small fraction of it. Thousands of years ago, people knew even less. So whenever sailors spotted enormous shadows beneath their ships, the stories spread quickly. Ancient texts described a terrifying beast called the Leviathan, a creature powerful enough to rule the seas. As unbelievable as that sounds, prehistoric oceans really were home to monsters. One was Leviathan, a giant whale armed with teeth larger than almost any predator alive today. Another was Basilosaurus, an ancient whale with a long, serpent-like body that looked more like a sea monster than a mammal. Although humans never encountered these animals, their gigantic fossils tell the story of an ocean once ruled by giants. Maybe the legends changed over time, but the fear behind them was very real. Number 3. Mothman. Unlike most creatures on this list, the Mothman isn't an ancient legend. Its story began in 1966 in the quiet town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. One night, several people claimed they saw a towering figure standing beside an abandoned factory. It had enormous wings, a dark, human-like body, and 2 glowing red eyes. Within weeks, more reports appeared. Drivers claimed the creature chased their cars down lonely roads. Others said it silently watched them from nearby fields before vanishing into the darkness. Then tragedy struck. In December 1967, the Silver Bridge suddenly collapsed, killing 46 people. Many locals became convinced the mysterious creature had appeared as a warning. Was it an unknown animal, a large owl mistaken in the dark, or simply fear spreading from one witness to another? No one knows, but even today, the Mothman proves that new myths can still be created in the modern world. Number 2. Chimera. The chimera may be the strangest creature in all of mythology. A lion, a goat, a serpent. 3 completely different animals fused into one impossible beast. For centuries, everyone agreed it was pure fantasy. Then science changed the meaning forever. Today, biologists use the word chimera to describe an organism containing cells from more than one genetic lineage. Some occur naturally. Others help scientists study diseases, test new treatments, and better understand how living organisms develop. They're nothing like the fire-breathing monster of Greek mythology, but they prove something extraordinary. Nature is capable of combining life in ways that once seemed impossible. The legendary chimera never walked the earth, yet the idea behind it turned out to be surprisingly real. Number 1. Phoenix. Few mythical creatures are as famous as the phoenix, a magnificent bird that dies in flames, only to rise from its own ashes. At first, it sounds impossible, but the legend may have been inspired by one of nature's greatest miracles. After devastating wildfires, forests that seem completely destroyed slowly come back to life. Fresh plants push through the ashes, animals return. Entire ecosystems rebuild themselves. To ancient civilizations, it must have looked as though nature itself had been reborn. Some historians also believe brightly colored birds, combined with the sun disappearing each evening and returning every morning, helped shape the legend of an immortal bird. The phoenix was never a real animal, but the cycle that inspired it has happened for millions of years. Sometimes, the most unbelievable legends begin with the most ordinary truths.